Yeah. Okay. So away you go.
Sure. Well, hi everyone. I'm Narelle Todd. So my business is called Get My Book Out There, and what it is a marketing and coaching business, business and marketing coaching, not the writing side. I don't, wander into there. So it really is working with predominantly fiction authors, and I have individual programs, but also a holistic program for those who want to come in and spend a year with me, and they learn all the tips and tricks and the foundations that they need to have in place with regards to their marketing, so that primarily my role is to help them sell more books and make more money so that they can sell more books and make more money.
Write
um,
more books.
so yeah, and it just goes around. People get into writing to be writers, not for the business side of things. And then once they realize, I think, the enormity of the business side that sits behind writing, it can be a bit of a shock. And then they get a bit overwhelmed, and it can be challenging, particularly for fiction authors as well, when the commodity that you're selling is, you might be like, one book could be, say, let's say $7. That's like your high ticket item. Whereas, say, for a non-fiction person, their book typically is a funnel through to higher ticket. So for non-fiction authors in particular, it is a little bit easier from a money perspective because they can sell the book, but then they can sell, whatever it is the book is leading to, whether it's a course or a service or something like that. So there are differences and there are similarities in marketing to nonfiction, or for nonfiction and for fiction authors. But really, at the heart of it is the core substance of how to market. And then there's kind of like little offshoots depending on which one you are with, whether it's fiction or non-fiction.
Okay. So you do work with fiction and non-fiction authors? Because I wasn't really sure.
I work predominantly with fiction.
Yeah.
I have written a non-fiction book myself, and I've worked with one or two other non-fiction. Um, but as I said, predominantly fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this? I'm just curious. Because we
Um,
met many years ago, everybody. So
yeah. I was in I had a couple of other businesses when I was in Brisbane, and a friend of mine wrote science fiction romance. This was in 2012. And she just wrote the books because she needed to de-stress from a really tough job. And then she just published them. And then she was talking to me about it. And I said, well, have you done this? Have you got a newsletter? Are you collecting names? The usual. And she's like, no, she didn't have a website. She didn't have anything. And with the businesses that I owned, I was heavily involved in the marketing. So I went, well, look, marketing is marketing. Um, Obviously, there's some refinements in what industry you're in, but at the core, the things are what you need. So I said, at least let's get people's emails addresses. And I ended up selling the other business I was in. And she said, well, and she was just going gangbusters by then. And so I helped her full time and then moved into this role and started my own business. And I went from there. Yeah. So
oh,
it was
awesome.
kind of accidental, maybe,
Yeah. So
or
that's
maybe
really
not.
encouraging, to hear for a fiction writer who's gone from struggling to, what did you say, going gangbusters. So obviously we'd like to know how this all happens.
Look, I think there's a couple of things, and that is she hit at the right time. So ebooks were kind of a big thing at that time. That genre in particular was taking off, and she came in with a really good offer. Like her books were science fiction, but um, they were heavily human, um, probably the best way to describe it. Whereas a lot of the science fiction in romance at that stage was more like monsters or weird things. And people just sometimes wanted to, like a good Star Trek or a good Star Wars story, really is what Susan was writing. So there was time and a place, I think, for her as well. But then also she released three books at the one time, and she she believed totally in her books. And I can't tell you the difference in the 13 years I've been doing this. When I work with authors, between those who don't believe in their book and those who are like, this book is really good, and it genuinely is. Um, then they're not being delusional there, but they really believe in their book, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. And that belief, I think, will get you ahead of the game. You can have all the other right things that you should have in place, but if you don't believe in your story, then that kind of comes through in your marketing as well. So that would be the other thing I would add in there.
So what gives them the kind of the confidence to really believe in it? Have they invested in other expertise so that they know it's good, like good editing, or is all that part of it? I would think it would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the three main things to make a good book is it's a good cover, a good book description or a blurb, and a good story.
Yeah.
And that includes editing and all of those things. So if you have those three things, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Where people trip themselves up is that they start to question. So they will pull back from marketing. So they may say, get people onto their email list, but then they won't email them. And so, they've invested time and money in getting people, but then they don't follow through. Or they may not even be willing, say, to, let's say, spend $5 a day on Facebook ads because they don't believe their book will sell. So they never kind of fully commit to the process. And often when people believe in their book, really what it is they've written a story. This is in fiction in particular. They've written a story that they themselves would want to read. And that's often where they've come from. They can't find something they want to read, so they've written something that they have. And that kind of authenticity and just realism and love for their story then comes through and shines out in their marketing.
Right. Look,
Do you think?
Naomi, Aaron, yes, please jump in.
Yeah, I was just saying because I have there are two separate stories that been working on for quite a few years now, and yeah, because they were basically one of them was inspired by a TV show and a movie that I saw way back in 2007, and I was just building it just for fun, just as a hobby, and then 10 years later, got to a point where it just
Yeah.
grew to a point where I was just like, I can't keep this in my head any longer. So I just wrote it all down. But at the time, I had no idea how to write a book. So and I've put it on the back burner for now because another story um, came about when I saw the movie The Avengers Infinity War because because I'm a massive Marvel fan, and when I saw that movie, I was just like so I don't want to say traumatized, um, but just like pretty distraught about how it ended, and I had a dream about an alternate ending where the good guys ended up winning, and it was just another. There was this group that was involved, and this story came, and I've just been writing this story because this story is now taking precedence and it's focused on that particular group, and it's just gone its own way as well. So it was, yeah, very, very personal, both stories,
Yeah.
particularly the most recent one.
So is science fiction, uh, is that still a really popular genre? Look, I imagine it is, probably more so. It's getting stronger and stronger, isn't it?
It's not so much now. So
Okay.
every genre kind of goes up and down.
Yeah.
And you'll find that so in say romance at the moment, mafia romance is huge. You
Mafia
could put
romance.
out, yeah, I know. You could put I just some of the stuff I just see and you just go, oh my goodness. Um, but because it's trending, people are just buying it, and if it's in KU, it tends to be a bit of a like if it's in Amazon KU KDP program, readers tend to go, well, I'll just read it, and if it's really bad, doesn't matter. I can just return it. It's free. So there's a certain, I think, standards aren't necessarily as high as perhaps what we think they would be. So what tends to happen in fiction is authors who write to market will go to whatever the trending genre is or theme, and they'll write that. And then when it moves to something else, they'll travel to that one and they'll do that one. And so you see some authors who'll produce a lot of books, but it's more about just getting the page read through. They're going for maybe 70% good enough. But they know that the market is just so hungry for those books that people will read them and then return them back to the KU library, and they've got their page reads and so on. So it there are two in fiction writing. There are two types of authors. One is one who writes to market, and that is they follow the trends.
Yep.
And so it could be that at the moment, books around the 40,000 K mark are really popular. People are wanting short reads, short attention span, and there's certain genres that are really trending, and so they'll want those, so they'll write those. Then there are writers who write their passion and what they want to read. And so there are these two actually quite distinct markets out there. And they both have different standards in the output that they have. Their marketing can look quite different because one's kind of, just get it in front of people. And, if we get 3 stars, that's good. And the other people over here are like, well, I want to really spend time. I want it to be a quality product. And they may only release, 2 or 3 books a year.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who's writing to market will write 30 to 40,000 words and could release, say, 6, 10 books in a year as a result. Yeah. So it depends on on what type of reader you are and what the genre is, and where you all are.
So in terms of us as book coaches working with our clients, we generally start working with them when they've got an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And, my view is that as book coaches, the more we know about the whole process, the more useful we are, the more value we can add. Even if we don't actually help them do the marketing, at least we need to help them set themselves up to be ready to market. So what would be the initial things as book coaches that we should be really just checking in with our authors about?
I would say get in touch with, not in touch with, get on the mailing list for K-Lytics. Let me just get the address for that. So this is a great website. It tells you what's trending.
Okay.
I can't believe there are people that can just go, oh, I think I'll write a sci-fi, and then tomorrow they'll write a rom-com, and then the week after they'll write a spy, mafia romance, and like anyway.
Who are these people?
Yeah, I guess they read a lot as well. They must be absorbing a lot. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, it tends to be formulaic for people who write to trends. So what I've put a link in the chat there for K-Lytics.
K-Lytics. .com?
politics.
It was, wasn't it?
Dot
Yeah.
.com, yes.
What's the K stand for?
A Kindle.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we can't use the word Kindle. Yeah. So this is a research company, and you don't have to buy every product they put out, but even their free stuff is enough for you. And it will let you know what's trending in each particular genre. So, for example, it may say, in, let's say, YA, people, the best-selling books are books that are 40,000 words and have a certain look. So if your author that you're working with, for example, is going, well, I'm going to write 140,000 words, and because it's going to be a really great book, the chances are they will find it hard to sell that book. And that obviously is going to impact their ability to step back up and write the second book, because when your first book doesn't sell, it's a bit like, I'm not a good writer, or, you start to question the whole process, whereas really it may just be that that's not what that market is actually looking for. So K-Lytics will give you some really great information there when you're working with your authors, just so that they really start from the right point of view for the genre that they're writing for. And it covers all the genres, horror, romance.
Is it non-fiction as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Good to know.
So it's all in there. They do a monthly report that you can have, and then they do specialized genre reports as well. So Aaron, for you, with YA and with sci-fi fantasy, you may say that, you would buy those special reports. I think maybe they're like $60 or something. They're not expensive, they're not really expensive. And that will just give you a lot of data that's sitting behind what's happening with sales. So you can then at least come to your writers and go, well, this is what's happening in the genre. Let's make sure that we're writing to what people are actually looking for.
Yeah.
It'll solve a lot of heartache down the track. Even in non-fiction, there are genres that kind of have a surge every now and then, and then they'll kind of go down a bit. So an example, standing yoga was really big there for quite a while. And we had books flying off the shelf for that. And that's now gone, and I'm sure something else is in its place now. That's just normal. So don't expect any genre to always be up. It'll flatten out at some point, or, and it will just do little bumpy bits. And the key then is that you can work with your authors in just getting them adapted, or getting their mindset in the place where, like, let's say they're hell-bent on publishing in self-help. I mean, that is one competitive genre. And you may be able to direct them to another genre. They can have the same book. They might just really, publish it in a different category. Not self-help. It could be something else which is similar. But it's best for them. They will get buried if, say, they published in self-help, but they may actually become visible when they publish in a category that's not so competitive, because it's easier to be seen as a result. So you'll get to kind of pick these sorts of things just from, say, your K-Lytics report that you'll get, or here's the other one. Do you like data? Are you into data? No, not really.
Aaron, you're an engineer, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, I am. It really depends on what data is.
Yeah.
But typically, yes, data is helpful. The
Yeah.
only thing though is the only the only thing I have the only thing I query though with the data is how long it's in effect until something changes, because like these trends, like how long do these trends typically last for? Because writing a book and getting it published and whatnot, like depending on what the route you're going, if you're going with self-publishing, that's a lot quicker than going traditionally publishing. So
Yeah.
like you could, like today you could be writing, like say for example nowadays it's what, based on what I've seen so far, it's mainly the trending is romantasy with dragons and for fae. Whereas in
Yes.
2 years' time that might shift. So today you
Yeah.
might want to write a romantasy with dragons, but then in 2 years' time the trend has changed. So I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, like,
Yeah.
yeah, the data is only
We
as relevant as long as the trending is still in effect.
Yes. And with K-Lytics, they produce their data every month. So that at least is, you're looking at a month, the data a month late, or, it's only a
Going to
month
be,
old.
it'll be pretty indicative of what's happening, won't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's no way to tell how long a boost is going to happen for a genre. So the example I gave earlier about mafia romance, that's been actually a couple of years now. And everybody was, initially, we all were like going, what the heck, where did this come from? And it started in COVID, and we were like, oh, well, I don't know, dark days of COVID, maybe people want to read this dark stuff. But it's held, and it's remained really, really strong. Romantasy, so that romance and the fantasy genres, which kind of merged together to become romantasy, that's starting to wane now. But what that would mean is if you had somebody who was dead set on writing dragons, so dragons are always popular, it would just mean that you would then move into a genre which is, say, more popular, that has dragons in it. So it could be fantasy, has become popular. But honestly, anyway, if
like
you do have a writer who writes dragons, dragons are always good.
It's like you find two random things and put them together and make a new genre.
Yes.
Hope for the best.
Just go post something on TikTok and they'll all go, what?
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
You can create your own your own genre.
So how do you normally work with people? What stage do they come to you normally with their writing?
So I work with beginners through to people who've been around and maybe, struggling a bit, but they have quite a few books out there. So literally people who have one book through to people who've got 50, 100.
Wow.
And they're finding that, so the beginning people have, they're just learning how marketing works and the strategy behind it and putting their foundations in place. People who have quite a few books out and their marketing is not working anymore, then that's a different sort of thing of finding out, well, what is it that's will work for them now? So different kind of challenges there, but I work with all the groups.
Yeah. So 1-to-1, or do you do?
I do 1-to-1 a little bit, but mostly it's group work now.
Okay.
Yeah. And I actually merge both. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. My groups are a combination of beginners and more advanced. And I did that initially because you'll never know where an idea will come from. That's something that will spark. And it's often I've found from people who are beginning, who've got no idea, and I'll just ask what may be like a random question. And, because you've moved on a bit and you're further down the road, you hadn't even thought of that, but now you went, oh. And I've seen some real shifts in our authors who have published a lot of books simply because they went back to the beginning and just reassessed where they were at. So it works, for both groups.
Nice.
So do
Yeah,
you do like a 6-week course or something like that that people join and go on a journey with you?
I have a year program
Okay.
for people, and that's a an 8 module program. But then we have weekly Q&As. So,
Oh,
um, and that it look, honestly, the Q&A is pure gold, and simply because you can tap into something that's happening now for you, and you can just go, ah, and so much of it is in the context. So, there is, say, the marketing theory, but then what does that actually mean for you in your business? And, so let's say if you were writing to market, and the response for you in how to troubleshoot would be different to somebody who, say, has got 50 books out and they're published wide, which would be different again to somebody who's with a traditional publisher, and so let's say they've got 10 books out. So it's the context becomes really important there, and that's where that Q&A call is just pure gold. Yeah.
I have to say the most surprising thing for me so far in the course is the fact of how involved the authors need to be with marketing their own book.
Yeah.
Um, I just, I guess I was just naive to it. That, yeah, I guess I only ever thought of traditional, publishers and that they would then, and I guess as I sit and reflect on what you're saying, Narelle, what's interesting to me in the nonfiction, because I'm mostly a nonfiction reader,
Mm-hmm.
although never a fantasy, dragon, sci-fi, never once, not ever. But beyond the writers' festivals and a book launch, um, and someone like, because I'm a big follower of Elizabeth Gilbert and she's got a new book out, so
Uh-huh.
she's, showing it at every
Yeah.
point, I'm on her weekly newsletter and all of that sort of stuff. I don't really, apart from word of mouth because friends have read it or whatever, I don't really remember being, and book reviews maybe in the papers, but I don't remember ever being marketed to by a non-fiction, excuse me, by a fiction writer.
Mm-hmm.
Non-fiction is probably slightly different, and I think you're right. Also learning that, what impact do you want the book to have on your career, which is
Yes.
interesting as a concept, and certainly one that I'm talking about with my one author. But even just understanding, they've got to have a database, they've got to, that's a whole other story, but it's more a B2B audience, so it's somehow makes more sense to me. But I don't remember ever being marketed to apart from those traditional channels. It would be great to sort of, if you could talk about beyond the traditional book launch, book review, writers' festivals, but you have to be pretty known to do all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know from a fiction perspective what a new writer might do if they don't have anybody who knows them.
Sure.
Thank you.
So there's so many options.
Huh.
And I say to people, choose one that you're comfortable with. I still believe that video is really important. So even if they don't want to show their face, if they show their book, but video definitely. Whether you go on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, but choose a video platform. There's still that's still a really strong way to reach people with your book. Outside of that, particularly in no, they would work for both. So Facebook ads or meta ads is another great way for both groups, fiction and non-fiction, to reach people. And you may, Naomi, simply have not seen ads because Facebook doesn't believe that you'd be interested in them.
Yeah.
I see
So,
everything else, trust me. I'll get the weirdest ad served. But never a book. Never a book.
yeah, that's
Mm.
interesting. So, Facebook are pretty good at working out who likes what and, showing ads and those sorts of things. So I would say paid ads. So you need one form of organic and then one paid. And I would just suggest Facebook. As much as people say that younger people aren't on Facebook, the data still shows that they are, because they go on there for various reasons. They could be different to the reason that I go on, but they still go on. So they will still see ad for a book or some kind. But if you can capture them in some way with your video, then definitely do that. Another great way is actually giveaways. Now, this isn't where you just kind of go, here's my book. It's more where, and not Goodreads. Do you know Goodreads?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So Goodreads used to be this amazing place where it was very reader oriented and reader led, and they do reviews and those sorts of things about books. It was very active. Amazon bought it out, and so it's a little bit diluted now. They had a thing called a giveaway, which was where you could put your book up. You would pay for the privilege, and everybody could kind of put their name down for it, and then somebody would, or however many you said, people would get a free copy of the book. And that was a really good way to get your book out and about. So there's there's apps now, of course, that allow you to do a very similar sort of thing with giveaways, where you can run a giveaway. You actually are collecting the names of the participants who join and their email addresses. And of everything that your authors are going to do, collecting email addresses is key. So if they have room for only one thing to do, collect email addresses. It doesn't matter how many followers you have, how many likes you have, any of that social metrics, it can disappear. And I've seen it happen so often where those things just are taken away from people and they're left with nothing because they don't have a list. So get your authors to build a list and do it even before the book is out. Get them to talk about things that they're interested in. Other people are interested in stuff as well, the same as them. So, there's so much that they could talk about. Get them to start building their list. Run giveaways for things associated with the book even if they don't have a book yet, or they could give away someone else's book in their same genre. Doesn't even have to be their own book. But what they're doing is collecting the people's names. That's the key. And then there's a gift. They can give away 1, 2, 3, however many they want. There's a random pick of all the people who've given in their details, and then they send the gift out. As I say, that doesn't have to be their own book if they haven't written it yet. But what they're doing is they're creating a list that they'll stay in touch with. Then when their book is out, they have a list of people that they know are interested in their genre, and they can go, hey, here's my book. You've at least got a head start over no one if you haven't created that list. So, even if you've got a couple of hundred people on a list, there's at least a couple of hundred that you can start working with. And those kind of giveaways are really low cost. So if that's an issue for your people, really it's about whatever the price is of the gift and the postage, if there's postage. Or, if it's an ebook, then they don't even have to worry about that. But, often cost is an issue for authors at the beginning. So that's a really good one because it's really, really low cost, but it's really effective. They will tap into other people's social networks in order to collect their names because they're, people will get points if they share it on social media. So it really can start to create a bit of a viral thing, and you're tapping into your potential readers, you're tapping into their social network. So you don't have to be out there posting 50 million times a day. Yeah. You can get other people to do it for you. They'll get more points in the giveaway, so there's a greater chance that they will win the prize, whatever that is.
So are
Yeah.
there apps that you can use for that, for the giveaway? Are there giveaway apps?
There are, yes. Yeah.
Like
So King Sumo is the one that I recommend.
Kim Sumo.
King, sorry,
King.
King as in Queen. Yeah, King Sumo, SUMO.
Okay. But you could be giving
They're,
away anything. Like you could
yeah,
give away coaching sessions to budding authors. A couple. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes. You can use this, and the same thing will work for your business.
yeah.
So for you guys, as it would for your authors, it's all about choosing the right prize or the right gift giveaway
Yeah,
to suit your people. Yeah.
yeah. Nice, nice.
Yeah. So that's a really nifty one. It's really underrated. It's a little bit kind of overlooked by a lot of people. So it actually has great impact when people see it because it's not used often.
Yeah, because
I
it's kind of like, it's kind of old hat in a way, but it still works. It's sort of that
yeah,
combination, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. Don't never be afraid of old tactics.
Because they worked.
They work. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a reason that they worked, but yeah,
Mm,
lots of people think they need to be doing funny videos or
mm,
doing weird things or whatever.
yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, that's not actually the case.
very good. I've got
Thank
a
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a cold, so I need to take a quick drink. Does anyone have any questions for Narelle while we've got you here? While I have a quick drink.
I just had a look at King Sumo. I've never even heard of these things. Oh my God. I'm a little bit behind the eight ball. Would you say it's similar then for nonfiction?
Mm, exactly the
Yeah.
same.
Exactly the
Yeah.
same. Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
such a great way, even for like say somebody has a business, let's say it's a brick and mortar store, they
mhm,
can use this same thing
yeah.
to increase that as they can for their book, which is going to, help bring people into their store, for example, or it is whatever. So it's a tactic, it's a marketing tactic that you can use pretty much for anything to grow anything,
Mm,
um, and tap into other people's socials. Yeah, particularly and it's quite handy for people who aren't into social media themselves.
mm.
So, if you have some introverted authors who very social media shy, then definitely this is a really great way to do it because you're actually tapping into your friends, family, business people, anybody other authors. Yeah, they will all share these things because there's such a tangible giveaway involved. They will share it on your behalf. So you're actually tapping into their network, but you're collecting the email address.
And then what are you doing with the email address? You're just pimping your book, are you?
Well, no.
It's your mailing list. Yeah. No, you're selling.
Buy it. Have you bought it? Buy it. Have you bought it?
No,
Buy
you
it.
you're doing a newsletter. I really
Yeah.
happy for
So
Okay.
you.
there's a certain structure to creating a
Yeah,
newsletter.
yeah,
People don't want to be sold to. This isn't about buy my book.
Yeah.
This is about you building that relationship now. So you would say send something out that's just sharing a bit of a funny story about something you did, or pretty much anything except buy my book.
yeah, pretty
Because
much.
you don't want to be emailing people, say every week, with something, like there's only so many ways you can say my book's really good, you need to buy it. And once they've bought it, they don't want to keep pounding them with it. So there's actually a structure in how you do emails to build the relationship so that they actually want to open your emails, even though it's got nothing to do about selling the book. But what you're doing is building those raving fans. You'll then go, great. Then when you do have a book out, they just go and buy it because
Yeah.
they're like your friend.
So that's
Yeah.
all part of your program, Narelle, is to the
Mm,
newsletter, how to do newsletters. And
yes.
and I'd
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, there's this is a bit of follow my train of thought here. Many authors love the isolation of writing. They're just writers,
Mm-hmm.
but and they would also, I imagine, like the fact that you can be anonymous at your keyboard and do online marketing. But there's still a very important role for authors to play is going live, like being visible, going out speaking, doing interviews, that sort of thing. So do you include that sort of training as well,
I do live videos, but and a little bit of conventions. So what to do at a convention, how to work at a convention, although the steps, what to take, all of that sort of stuff. But not public speaking around a book. I don't deal with that.
Yeah.
Do you
but I would.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, go.
I just wondered if you did earned as well. Do you help them with publicity and press releases and book reviewing?
Yes, yeah. So as part of the book launch package is a press release kit in there, and who to send it to, and wording and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the key things is also that it's not, even though it's part of the book launch package, but your book is new to somebody every day. So in actual fact, it's being launched every day. So that press release, you can send, it doesn't just have to be on the actual day your book went live at a bookstore. You can send that out every couple of months, every month. It's up to you. Obviously, change the story a little bit and the concept around it. But you literally can be doing press releases whenever you think, something of interest is out. If a story is happening in the news that relates to your book, then you would do a press release connecting your book with whatever is going on. Yeah.
Very good.
So it's never once, your press release. It's not one and then you're done. So you're launching your book all the time, in effect. So, just let your authors know that it's okay to do those kind of tactics quite regularly.
And pace it out so it's manageable, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Some data came through that for books that are hitting the New York Times, these are traditionally published books, it's usually they've been out for 6 months before they actually hit the list. It's not like they've released the book and then they made the list. They've been out for 6 months. People have been reading it, telling their friends. There's been campaigning going on and all sorts of stuff happening. So, just be aware that your book is never old or anything like that. It's always new to someone every day.
Cool. Awesome. So just for the benefit of us here, but anyone who's watching this, how would we refer somebody to you? So if we've got a client who's really keen to learn more about marketing, how would they find you?
Sure. So my website is getmybookouthere.com /learn. It has the list of my current offers at the moment. So the signature Get My Book Out There program is that big one that I've been telling you about. That's the year-long program. But there's other little bits in there. There's like the giveaway in there. That's, you can pick that up, I think, for like $17, I think, at the moment. I've got it reduced down to from $97. So there's all sorts of little things in there, little courses, depending on what people are after. Or then there's, the big one where they get to come chat with me every week, and we can really get into the nuts and bolts and really personalize and help their story fly.
Oh, that's awesome. So just, I'm asking sort of coach to coach here. Do you find the weekly, is that demanding for you as a coach to meet weekly? No. You obviously enjoy it.
Yeah. If that was the only thing I could do in life, I'd be a happy bunny.
Interesting. Oh, that's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm introducing office hours as well, which is a new thing for everybody in my community. And that's just where it's an hour every week on a Friday morning, and they just come, and it could be anybody. So it could be from the signature program, somebody who's bought the giveaway, somebody who bought the email program, somebody, they will just come, and it's a chance to ask a burning question that they have. So, but that's new. That'll be launching in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great idea. Awesome.
What's your book, Narelle?
My book is called It's All Good Except When It's Not, and How to Keep Going Anyway.
I like it.
So yeah.
That's pretty true, isn't it? It sort of sums it up, doesn't it?
So I had cancer in 2023.
Oh,
and
really?
I documented what happened. And so I had 2 surgeries and then radiation. And I had a Facebook group of just friends and stuff, and I just update in there rather than having to try and ring around and all the rest of it. So my book ended up, I didn't do it for that reason, but people were just like, oh yeah, you need to put this into a book. And then so it's those kind of journal entries, and then kind of what I learned, or what I found from that experience. And so sometimes the learning was profound, and sometimes it was just like, it's a shit day. And that's it. But
Wow.
Very good.
Awesome. It was good exercise.
Awesome. So I sort of have in my mind that apart from coaches referring people to you, I could sort of see all sorts of possibilities. So, for example, if I was running a group program, I could ask you to kind of come in and do like what we're doing now, or add a component to the program. So, are you open to that sort of idea? Like,
for sure.
Little alliances here and there.
Yes, absolutely. So look, just get in touch. Let me know, you found me through Bev's program. And I'm happy to talk wherever, whenever. You just tell me what about. I've probably come across it in the 13 years.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I'll just pause or stop recording.